Thanks, Brittany. Appreciate you guys spending about next 20-25 minutes with me going over PageFilter. If this is your first time at one of these things, just a heads up, although we invited everyone who owns PageFilter, we also invited those that own iMerge, our duplicate merge tool, iEmail, which is our Outlook integration tool, soon for Office 365, should be this quarter. We're actually announcing it next week. iMove, our national change of address product for finding everyone who has moved and updating your IMS database on the fly. Meeting Closer, our product for closing events and not losing any detail. Freight Rate Importer for updating all your freight rates with current UPS or USPS or FedEx rates. iImport, the easiest to use tool for importing and updating data. iMap, our geolocation tool, so for updating your internal geo, Latin longitude from Google. Activity Importer Plus for bringing in activities, updating activities, and gifts as well. iDonate, our online giving solution. iDocument, our newest tool for documenting your entire database, so that if something bad happens to you or your solution provider, you have documentation. Profile Editor, our high-end profile maintenance tool, and Fundraising Made Easy. If you are using fundraising, you should have the Freeze product. And of course, PageFilter, the whole reason you're here today. So, hopefully you have one of those. So why did we create PageFilter? We created PageFilter really because there were things about on the web that IMS did. IMS is a product. It does what it does, and sometimes you needed to do things a little bit different. We needed a way to make sure those were documented and sustainable, and the fact is each version of IMS changes. So if you go out there and you modify some files or do some funky things, and we learned this the hard way over the years at CSI, you put a new update on or just a little patch, and suddenly some of your customizations are all gone, and then everyone's mad at you. So really what it allows is a technical consultant. You do need to be a little bit technical. It helps to know HTML. It does help to know JavaScript if you're going to use that. But it also allows regular consultants and regular users to turn things on and off, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But you can make changes to Rise, iParts, or if you're still on IMS Public View, you can do that as well. And what do changes mean? Well, I can change text. So I don't want something to be saying register now. I can change the text. I can do variable text replacement, so I can look for, rather than looking for all of a certain text, I can look for just certain text and change it. I can do URL redirects, which is really cool. So instead of dropping into a certain page that Rise or Public View is going to default to, I'm going to grab that redirect and send them somewhere else. And I'm going to show you some cool stuff. JavaScript injections, that sounds like a flu shot. It's not, but it's some cool stuff that we've been doing with PageFilter lately. So the really nice part about all of that, if you are using PageFilter, is your changes stay with upgrades. As I said before, if you go out to the server and you try and make some of these changes, and then you do a quick little patch, boom, everything's gone. And you've got to remember or have written down every change you made. And if you want to turn it off and it's out there, you got to find out where it is. And what I mean by that is IMS is getting better all the time. And say you're using PageFilter to change something you don't like about IMS, and the next release of IMS fixes that issue. Well, then you don't need that PageFilter rule anymore, and you can go right on and disable it. And you don't need to be a technical consultant to disable or enable a rule, and that's what really makes it kind of fun and powerful here. So what's it look like in action? Here's a redirect. It's the simplest thing, and the best way to show it is actually to show you the PageFilter screen. In this case, my conditions are that if they are going to either the default page or the member's profile page, I actually want to redirect them. In this case, we are redirecting them to something that we call our user account management system, where it's an account management page that allows them to find their username and password. So or reset their username and password by giving certain bits of information that only they know. So I really don't want them dropping to any of these pages. I want them going to my account management page. So in this case, we've set up PageFilter to, if it meets one of these conditions, notice the or, to permanently redirect them to a different page. How about screen edits? These are the most basic thing that you can do with PageFilter. In this case, I'm saying if the URL happens to match this URL, then find preferred mailing address and change it to, say, make this my preferred mailing address. Find preferred shipping address, change that as well. Same thing with billing. And then finally, this is where we talk about being a technical consultant. This says, look for the panel field left top and replace it with panel field display none. What does that mean? Well, if you've ever used Rise, this is what your address screen looks like. It says preferred mailing, preferred shipping, and then you have these notes. These notes are being saved in the name address table where they're almost impossible to see from the IMIS desktop. In fact, I think they are impossible to see. So we have clients that say we really don't want members putting notes in here, and they don't understand what these checkboxes are. So we take PageFilter and we change them. Ready? Boom. Notice that says now make this my preferred mailing address, and notice the notes are gone. How do we do that? I'm backing all the way up. We just did it with this code. This is being recorded. You can save this. You can make these changes yourself. Those are out there. It's pretty straightforward. From preferred billing address to make this. So you can clean up screens. You can hide things like I did with the notes. And some really cool stuff there. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. How about we make it a little more complex? Here we're injecting some JavaScript. This is a really cool thing that we just did for a client, and I thought it'd be fun to put out there. What happens here is PageFilter is going to call some JavaScript, and this JavaScript is going to check for an activity to see if they've agreed to the terms. This customer says, you're not going to register for our event unless you've clicked on a little checkbox and agreed to our terms and conditions. And if you haven't done that, I'm going to show you special text that says you have to do that. And then once you do that, I'm going to create an activity. I'm going to say, hey, good, we've got an activity. They've agreed to my terms. Let's show them the register button. So if you were to go into IMIS and go to register someone or register yourself, it might look like this, register myself. But now with some JavaScript injected there, check it out. Little thing here, before you can register, please review and agree to the event registration waiver here. So they've got to click that, and then once they do that, they click the waiver. It pops up the waiver, and once they filled out the waiver, they are dropped right back into this page where they can register themselves. So we take this page, we drop that in. Once they do the waiver, they can then go register. So that's using some JavaScript. It's a little technical. Obviously, we had a developer do some of that. And then while I was doing this, I was reminded that I've heard people say, you know, you don't need PageFilter to do JavaScript. That's just crazy. I show my customers all the time how they can do JavaScript. And that's all true. It really is true. You don't need PageFilter to do that, except you're going to need to go on the server and modify some files. And when you do that, well, like I said, when you upgrade IMIS, you better check those files because they could be overwritten. You could lose all of your changes. You better remember back ability, right, as a consultant. Only the developers would have that control, but the beauty is that with PageFilter, as a regular consultant, I can go in and disable a rule from running. So if I think the programmer has messed with my stuff and maybe done some bad things, I can actually turn off what they've done with PageFilter, which is really powerful because, you know, sometimes developers do make mistakes. Okay. So let's see what's next. How about this? This was a cool thing. Same kind of customer that we had. They need to be able to select ribbons. So they're going to go out there and select the ribbons that they're going to get on their badge. And so we're going to drop those in their packets. And in order to do the ribbons properly, we actually want to make them event functions in IMIS. We don't want them to have a cost or a time. And the problem is that IMIS shows it like this. You can see right down here, not specified, and a price. And that's kind of crazy. These are ribbons, so we've grouped them as a ribbon, right? They're grouped out here, but this just makes no sense to the end user. They want to be able to select that I'm a past national president and I'm a past national secretary and get those ribbons or those functions added, even though they have no true cost. So we can do that with PageFilter, and when we turn on the PageFilter, it looks like that. It's actually hidden the time and date as well as the price. It made it nice and clean. All gone. Even tightened up the screen a little bit. So that's pretty cool too. A couple other cool things I'll show you. Here's some more replacements happening here. I've actually got a condition that says if you're on the event dashboard or you're in the event display, get rid of the register myself and change it to sign up for this event. Change last day to register to event signups close on, and change my registration status to you are currently. Here's what IMIS looks like out of the box, right? We see it, there's register myself, last day to register. And then once we turn on that rule, sign up for this event, and event signups close on. So I'm making some just minor tweaks. They're not hard tweaks to make. They are really, I think, making it a lot more friendly. And like I said, I can turn these off. So when IMIS allows me to change the wording for this button, that's great. I can totally go and turn this rule off and make the change in IMIS. So as IMIS progresses, I can turn on or off certain features of PageFilter. So assuming you're using PageFilter, let's talk about some important tips. There's a debug mode. This is huge, 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 because it tells you what's happening behind the scenes. And there's two different debug modes, HTML and header. Headers for the geeks, okay? It's hard to figure out what's happening with headers, but it's much less intrusive. HTML, that's for the people like me, right? It's easy to use, but it can and will affect the IMIS desktop. So if you turn on debug mode in PageFilter, and you have customers, or I'm sorry, staff, co-workers using the IMIS desktop, weird things are going to start happening. So if you need to turn on debug mode and you need to put it on HTML, you're going to go real quick. And if you are not going to go real quick, turn on header. Let's talk a little bit about that. First off, we added a warning, okay? The warning now, if you go to turn on debugging, you get a nice warning saying, hey, heads up, it can have adverse effects on your website and the IMIS desktop. Only disable it while, only enable it while actively debugging, and it normally should be off. And then we tell you to check the user guide for more information. Really, the headers is not going to affect much, but the HTML will actually cause issues, okay? So once you have that new warning, when I am using HTML and I do a Control-U, this is what the HTML warning looks like, and I'm going to show you some cool stuff in here in a minute. It's real easy to read what rules are matching, what other rules are there, what rules are disabled, the page URL. It's all out there, nice and wonderful. Well, if you're using headers, then you got to deal with a bunch of different browsers. I'm going to show you a slide that shows you how to get the header information for Chrome, Edge, and Firefox. And then I'm going to show you what to do with that header information once you get it, because it's all in one single line. It's not pretty like that. And once again, this is primarily for when you're trying to debug, why isn't my page filter rule working? In each of these, you'll see I'm going to go into the developer tools in Firefox, go to network, click on the page, and then down here, X page filter debug. You're going to copy that. Similar to in Edge as well, click on it, highlight that, and then a little bit different network headers in Firefox. And notice you're copying that one line. It's all clobbered together. So you're going to paste it in Notepad, and you're going to use the find, and you're going to find the semicolon and replace with a return and a line feed. And then once you do that, the rules look like this. So this is using header. It's getting the header information out of a current page that's being debugged, okay? And you only need to do this if you are using the header debugging mode. If you don't care about the desktop and IMIS, or you're going to be doing it really quick, or you're like some of my clients I know who are always working very late at night and there's nobody in the office messing around, then just use HTML. Because if you use HTML debugging, it's nice and clean, and it looks like that. So here is when you're trying to figure out what's wrong. Okay, because remember, this webinar is not a sales webinar. It's to show you how to use PageFilter. I have gone to a page. My event display is not working. I went to a page, and now I did a Control-U in Firefox. Okay, and once I did that, it tells me what's happening. It tells me my version of PageFilter. It tells me my license is missing. That's not good, but we'll talk about why that's not a problem. It'll tell me what rules are actually matching and working, and what other rules that are out here, but the conditions don't match. And in this case, my event changes is the one I really want to be happening, and it's not working. But I also have two other disabled rules. So this is really powerful. I can figure out what rules are turned off, what rules are actually active on this page, and what other rules are there, but they're not being called because the conditions don't match. And this is what happened to me today while practicing. I said, why aren't my event changes showing? I went in, I called the developer over, I said, I set this all out correctly. Didn't I do everything right? And he said, sure you did, but look at this. You didn't check match on any. If I don't have that checked, these two rules and together. So it looks for this and this to match. I actually wanted either of those to be true. If one of them is true or both of them is true, I want these actions to happen. So he said, go click on match any, and you'll be good to go. So I clicked on match any, I clicked OK, and then you're going to see what happened. My rules started to take effect. And you can see now the matching rules is showing my event changes are actually running. So that's pretty powerful there. So if you're messing with PageFilter, you're trying to figure out some stuff, use either the HTML or the header debug mode, and it'll tell you what's happening on the page. Super powerful. Okay, so a couple important tips here. When you're installing and using PageFilter, many clients will put it on the actual web server. You don't have to do that. You can put it on a workstation, but that workstation has to have read-write access to the website directory via network share from where PageFilter is running. So if you're going to go install PageFilter on your workstation, totally cool. Make sure you can get to that web server, because if you can't, PageFilter is not going to be able to help you out. So a lot of clients will just install it on their web server. We now license PageFilter per URL. If you want to try it out on, say, a URL that isn't licensed, and by the way, once you buy PageFilter, we'll give it to you for any number of URLs. However, if you have a URL or you're trying a demo version of PageFilter, you can install it on any machine and use it locally to test without having a license key. And I'm going to show you that right now. So as you saw, everything I did in my demo is on this machine. Here's PageFilter. Notice I'm missing my license key. I have disabled my license warning. The reason we want that is because if I turn that on and I'm on a public website, everybody that comes to my website is going to see that PageFilter is not licensed. And that's not cool for your public users to see that, or your members. So you can turn off the license warnings. However, I'm using this on my local machine, and my local machine does not require a license key. So all of these PageFilter rules are active, and they're all working right now on my personal machine that actually has, on my web server, if you will, which is this machine. So everything's running. I can go ahead and practice all my rules. I can try it all out. Looks good. I do not have to be licensed. However, if someone tries to get to this page from outside of my organization, they're going to see a big message saying, well, they're not going to see anything. They're actually not going to see PageFilter work. And then if you were to turn on the license warnings, then they'd see a very ugly warning that was telling them that PageFilter is not licensed. Here's my debugging mode. HTML, remember that's going to affect the desktop. And headers, that's not going to affect the desktop. Caching allows PageFilter to go ahead and cache your rules, so you're going to get some performance kicks. The problem is that if you start caching your rules while you're going out here and making changes, you got to wait the 5 minutes or 10 minutes for your changes to take effect. So what we recommend is you leave caching off until you're ready to go live and you've tested out all your rules. So what you've been seeing is PageFilter version 2. That has increased security because it's running as a desktop. Before, PageFilter was a URL. That's great, and you had to make sure you lock down that URL. And since we can't guarantee you're locking down that URL, we moved it over to a desktop application, which I know sounds weird, but it did allow for increased security. And it allows us some better error reporting and troubleshooting for CSI support. So there were some reasons behind that to move version 2 to an actual application. Version 2 also works with Rise and iParts. The version 1 did not have the technology to support Rise and iParts. You can now remove PageFilter, so if you want it out of there, you can go out and say, get out of here, PageFilter, and it'll uninstall it from your server. The old version of PageFilter had a lot of manual steps. The new one will say, hey, I'm not installed, I need to install it, I'm going to make some changes to your web config, and then you can always undo those. And you saw the license key area. It's licensed by domain. Right now, we're not limiting you on the domains. Granted, if you are with abc.org and you ask for a license key for xyz.org, we might ask you, what the plan is there, because we really don't want you giving this to your friends and family. You like what you see, and you want to first then find out what version of PageFilter you're using. Provided you're on 2, it's that little question mark up in the corner, and you go to About PageFilter. Go to CSI Inc. to download the latest one. Click on Login right there. We will hopefully have our new website up, maybe this month. Click on Login. You're going to need your user credentials there. You can just email sales@csiinc.com if you have forgotten those credentials. Once you're logged in, you're going to see every product that you're current with, current on your software update fee, and you can scroll down there. We even make the documentation available if you want to see what might have been added to PageFilter. When you go and save it, just save it somewhere on your desktop, on your computer, whatever. I like to save everything in Erase Me directory, just a little tip there. I save all my installs there, because I know I can then erase them anytime I might need space. We say run as administrator. I still do that. They tell me our products don't require that anymore, but I think for PageFilter especially, you want to run as administrator. It's going to be going out and doing some things to your web server config, so important that you do that. It is normally user installable, but if you haven't upgraded in a while, you may need to consult the README file. You're going to need the license key. Once it's installed, you don't need it anymore. If you forgot or lost it, also just email us. And as I said before, it's licensed by domains. If you need to add a domain, so say you have meetings.abc.org or whatever like that, you can go ahead and call us and we'll get you a license key for that. If you get stuck, go ahead and read the manual. We spent a lot of time on that manual. There's a lot of good stuff in there. If you're still stuck, go ahead and email us at support@csiinc.com. Give us as much information as you can about the problem, a screenshot. And we're about 2 days. We're in the central time zone here in the United States. So if you happen to be in London or Australia, be aware that you're either ahead of us or way ahead of us, and we may be sleeping when you submit the ticket. Probably not in London, but we will be. No, we could definitely be sleeping if you're in London or whatever. So it's 2 business days in the U.S. Central Time. But you got to remember, the HTML support, including the writing of JavaScript, coding HTML changes, that's not part of your software update. So if you need to call us and say, hey, I want you to write me some JavaScript, or I want you to write me some HTML, we can help with that. It's going to be via a paid service ticket, and you can submit that to support@csiinc.com. If you don't have a master services agreement with us, we're going to ask you to sign that, just for crossing the T's, dotting the I's. And remember, I hope you are all members of the NIOG listserv. Very inexpensive. If you are a member of the NIOG listserv, you can go ahead and post your question out there and say, look, I'm playing around with HTML. I'm not a pro, but here's what I'm trying to do. Can someone help me? And I'm pretty sure that someone will help you with your issue. If you ask them to write JavaScript, actually there's some people out there that might even do that for you as well. So the listserv is a great tool. It can pay for your NIOG fees with one answered question. If you have a great idea for an enhancement for PageFilter, we'd like to hear about it. Just email us at support@csinc.com. We have events like this every month for each of our products, and you'll see that on our webinar screen. We have had previous ones as well, and our webinars page has those previous. So if you're using any of those other products that I talked about in the beginning and you haven't seen our webinars, go out there. They're designed for you. They're designed for customers that are using the product. They really are not about sales. However, if you do want to see a salesy one, we've got that. Just go to our PageFilter actual web page. The webinars one is going to be the one like this, as well as we might even have just a salesy sort of PageFilter one there. So we've got a couple questions here. So in the ribbon scenario, can they be defaulted to checked based on activity? So in the ribbon scenario, we wanted to check certain ones based on activity. That is a very good question. I would assume with JavaScript that would be possible. I can confirm that though. And can we use PageFilter to change the match on any to be match on either? That is, so it will match on either all or any one of them. So would that cover what you're looking for there, James? Oh, it was a joke. Ah, okay, good. I was like, oh boy, I'm going to have to sit him down and explain and ors. Real nice. I love it when my clients are giving me a hard time. I've already had another one on. Don't worry, James, you weren't the only one giving me a hard time. Okay, so we'll just ignore that. I want to thank you guys for your time. As Brittany said, this is going to be up on our website today. It'll be up on our website, and if you just couldn't get enough of this and you want to see it again, you can join me at 5 and see how many mistakes I'll make at the 5 p.m. one. That's 5 Central Time. So thank you so much. I appreciate it, and we will chat with you soon. Bye.